DJ's Darkside. Tonight we're going to read again from Deadly Treats. This one is called Boo! And it is by Michael Allen Mallory. Leonard Skupik lay in wait for his next victim, barely able to contain himself. It wouldn't be long. He had a great view of the front walk, and he could bide his time. With the electric lights out, no one was likely to see him at the window. The 6 jar candles on the fireplace mantel offered little in the way of illumination. Mood lighting. Even if anyone did notice his head and shoulders in the living room window, they'd be hard-pressed to make out a shape within the ambiguous confluence of light and shadow. Approaching laughter caught his ear. 4 small figures emerged from the tar-colored darkness. Leonard crouched lower, his fingers squeezing the 2 cords passing through the partly open window sash. One cord was tied to the wicker chair. The other went to Joe Scarecrow, a life-size stuffed cloth dummy dressed in a flannel shirt, patched overalls, and hat. Yellow straw hair poked out from under the floppy hat. Black button eyes and a garish grin leered malevolently. Leonard wore the same grin. A pirate, a witch, a zombie, and a superhero climbed the 3 creaky wooden steps to the porch. Under the amber glow of the overhead porch light, they passed before the red door to boost their courage. The pirate reached out to push the doorbell. Leonard drew in a breath and tugged the first cord. The wicker chair scritched back on the floorboards. 4 little heads turned in unison. Leonard yanked the second cord. Joe Scarecrow flew out of the chair at the children. "Yee!" cried the witch. The zombie, smallest of the candy crew, backed away with concern. "It's fake, Bobby," the pirate told him. "It's not real." The zombie looked unconvinced. Laughing, Leonard hoisted himself up and rushed to the door. "Boo!" he said, holding out a large ceramic bowl brimming with candy treats that instantly reminded the youngsters of their purpose. "Trick or treat!" 4 cloth bags were thrust out. Leonard dropped handfuls of mini candy bars and suckers into each bag. "Thank you," said a chorus of happy voices. He watched the children trundle back down the path into the night, inspecting their bags, taking stock of their loot. Leonard collected Joe Scarecrow and reset the trap. A smile of nostalgia came to him as he adjusted the dummy. The raggedy coveralls had been his a lifetime ago, the first year he and Molly had lived in the old bungalow. Leonard had ripped the pants while repairing the rain gutters. The pillowcase head was Molly's handiwork, cut, sewn, and painted by her. With Joe Scarecrow back in his chair, Leonard went inside and took up his post by the window, patient as a basement spider. He didn't spring the trap on every caller. Sometimes they came too quickly. Other times he simply preferred waiting for the right victim. That was the fun. Once a year, Halloween gave him an excuse to play pranks. Decorating the house had always been Molly's task, and one she loved. Halloween was her absolute favorite holiday. Over the years, they'd seen fewer and fewer trick-or-treaters, a sign of the times, he knew. Most kids nowadays spent the holiday at the mall or in a private home for safety. Guess there were too many real weirdos out there now, not just the pretend crazies. A noise. Leonard squinted into the darkness. The sound came from near the boulevard blackberry, whose yellow leaves shuddered in the wind. Deformed shadows materialized by the tree trunk to congeal into the shape of 3 teenagers. Their loud voices carried from the sidewalk. Oh, yes, they would do very well. Out of habit, Leonard glanced behind at Molly's empty wing chair, as if expecting her to be seated there with her crossword puzzles, gazing back with a contented smile. Only she wasn't there. His face dimmed at how empty the chair was without her, at how silent the house was without her laughter. 18 months. Leonard sighed. It was still a struggle for him. The last Halloween had been rough. Too many memories. Too soon after her death. Even the thought of putting up decorations had been unbearable. In time, the hurt had dulled, though it continued to nibble away at him like the arthritis in his knee. It wasn't until August that he'd finally summed up the will to clean out her things, which is when he came across the Halloween boxes under the basement stairs. Molly's boxes. He hadn't heart to throw them out. After a week, he decided on a whim to put out one little witch figurine, the first decoration that he'd bought for her. It was only supposed to be up for a couple of days, but was soon joined by a plastic Frankenstein doll, which Molly had agonized over buying. The 2 objects were a comfort in an odd way, giving him the illusion that she'd just put them out herself and would return shortly. As September faded into October, skulls and rubber dismembered hands emerged from the boxes, to be followed by cotton cobwebs, plastic bats, black and orange crepe paper, and other ghoulish iconography. She'd approve, Leonard thought, looking around. While he didn't possess Molly's decorating sense, he felt the effort wasn't half bad. Leonard's ears pricked. The voices were close now. A goth teenage girl was in front. Black hair, black eye makeup, black lipstick, black clothes. The girl next to her was also a young teen, this one in a Kool-Aid red mohawk, candy red lipstick, and facial piercings. Their companion was a pale male vampire. Too old to spook? Worth a try, Leonard thought. The moment they stepped onto the porch and yanked the cords, the wicker chair legs scuttled back and Joe Scarecrow flew out. Shit! The goth girl jumped. It's fake, you dumbass. Mohawk girl nudged the fallen dummy with the toe of her army boot. Vampire teen was too cool to impress beyond a simple raised eyebrow. Lame, he said. The red door flew open. Boo! Leonard stood large in the doorframe. His welcoming grin evaporated as he saw the bored expressions on the teenagers' faces. Apparently, he was unworthy of even a holiday salutation. The vampire thrust out a canvas bag. Trick or treat, man. Leonard knit his brow in disapproval. Aren't you a little old to be asking for candy, son? The vampire snorted. We'll take cash. I don't like that. Mohawk girl cut in and jiggled her loot bag. You gonna give us candy or not? For an instant, the temptation to say no played on his lips. However, before the words came out, he heard the echo of Molly's sweetly chiding voice in his mind. Oh, Leonard, lighten up. Order a few pieces of candy. You can keep the spirit of the day, even if they can't. And he wanted to honor her memory. Retrieving the candy bowl, he loaded their bags and tried to show he wasn't such an old grump. I like your costumes. Goth girl squinted. Costumes? Leonard gestured at their clothes. We aren't wearing costumes. Mohawk girl shot him a baleful look and wheeled about in a huff. She clumped down the steps, followed by her friends. Speechless, Leonard watched them laugh derisively as they walked away. Oh well. He set Joe Scarecrow back in the wicker chair and returned to the window, though he didn't know why he bothered. The mood was broken. What was the point? It was all a sham. It was a mistake thinking he could do this without Molly. A small ceramic werewolf stared at him from the windowsill. Leonard took it, caressing its smooth surface. Molly's first effort in her ceramics class before she got good. The accident had happened on her way to class. A drunk driver had run her down. A 5-time offender who wasn't supposed to be on the road. Some irresponsible punk who figured the law didn't apply to him. The anger welled up inside Leonard like a suppressed scream. He hurled the figure across the room where it smashed to pieces against the floor. Eyes jammed shut, he tried to block out the memory of that awful night. It was a while before Leonard dared to open his eyes. When he did, he saw a ghostly reflection of his face in the window, a grim and hollow-eyed countenance as devoid of life as the plastic monsters around him. Was this his life now? In their kinder moments, his friend suggested he should move on, deal with life after Molly, though that had proven to be more difficult than he'd expected. A swirl of wind scratched a pile of dead leaves along the sidewalk. The noise drew his attention. Someone else was coming up the walk. No kid. It was an adult draped in a dark, hooded robe. A bony hand held a tall scythe. The trick-or-treater was dressed like death. No, this was too much. The adult candy moocher was the last straw. Leonard jumped up and flung open the front door. Do you know how ridiculous you look? I'm sick and tired of you adults begging for treats. Buy your own damned candy. Leonard tried to look his caller in the eye, but couldn't see the other's face inside the dark hood. The overhead porch light cast a heavy shadow. Leonard Skupik, Death intoned in a deliberate, resonant voice. I have come for you. I get it. You're really into the part. Now, take a hike before I slam the door in your face. I am Death, Leonard Skupik. You will come with me. Now you're getting tiresome. Silence. Leonard sighed. Maybe you think this is funny. Look, I'm in a crappy mood and don't feel like playing your game. Just go. Death stood his ground. Cripes! Leonard threw up his hands. Don't you understand English? I'm not interested in playing your stupid game. Get off my property. Stepping back, Leonard slammed shut the big red door and shook his head. Some people. When he got back to the window, he was surprised to see the visitor had not moved. This guy's really starting to annoy me, he grumbled. Just about ready to close the curtains when Death turned about and glided down the path. Too curious to look away, Leonard wondered where he'd go next. The Carlsons? Good luck with that. Lauren Carlson would probably invite him in for a beer and talk his ear off. Yet instead of taking a right at the sidewalk, Death went left and faded into the evening somewhere behind Joe Scarecrow's head. Leonard leaned to the side for a better look. A twitch. Joe Scarecrow suddenly sat bolt upright. His head snapped round to stare malignantly at Leonard. Boo! He shouted and then lunged at the window with both arms extended. Leonard recoiled, nearly swallowing his heart. Whew. Raced for an attack. He was surprised when it didn't come. The window was still intact. Joe Scarecrow still lay limp in his chair like the collection of old clothes and rags he was. Leonard eyed him warily and gulped in calming breaths. Deep, calming breaths. He stopped. Leonard realized he was not alone. From the corner of his eye he saw it, the flutter of a black robe. He turned, dreading what he'd see, but knowing there was no way he could avoid looking. Death stood there like a dark angel, his scythe held out before him. "Leonard Skupik," he spoke, "I have come for you." Leonard swallowed. Death took a step closer. "Do you believe me this time?" Yes, I'm sorry about before. I didn't know it was really you." As if in acknowledgement, Death inclined his head. In the dim candlelight, Leonard could still not see the hooded face, yet he felt the eyes inside the black void staring directly into his soul. Does this mean I'm dead?" Leonard brought a hand to his face. I don't feel dead." "You are still among the living, Leonard Skupik, until I take you away." "This must be a mistake." "I do not make mistakes." Leonard nodded. "I suppose I can't change your mind." A heavy silence. The hooded figure offered no clemency. With no court of appeal open to him, Leonard felt his mortality closing around him. He bowed his head in acquiescence. After a moment, he looked up. Will Molly be there? Will you be where you're taking me?" "Yes." Will I see her?" "You will." The promise eased his anxiety. Am I supposed to go with you now?" For several seconds, Death did not speak. When he stirred, it was to lower himself into Molly's wing chair, where he made himself comfortable. He set his scythe against the wall and folded his hands in his lap. "We have time yet. I have traveled far, and you are my last call." Laughter from outside. Leonard looked through the window and scowled. "It's those goth teenagers again. Hey, that's my planner. Did you see that? They just knocked it over. They're coming back to the house." He shook his head. "No respect. And I gave them candy." Leonard glared at Death. "Damn, I'd really like to teach them a lesson." "What kind of lesson?" "I don't know, something to shake them up, something to scare them into realizing their actions have consequences." After pondering this for a bit, Death leaned forward in Molly's chair. "Scare them? I think I can help you with that." Leonard looked back, intrigued. "Oh, this is going to be good." I hope you enjoyed.